Today we are going to talk about Twitch streamer Hasan Piker, more specifically about how he could prove that socialism works only by doing one simple thing. Now, Hasan has been criticized a lot for being a champagne socialist. A champagne socialist is basically someone who takes on the aesthetic of a socialist, not to pursue socialism, but for monetary gains and fame. Now, the reason he's been called a champagne socialist is because of his purchases. For instance, he bought a $2.7 million home in Beverly Hills. He also bought a Porsche. He buys expensive clothes and expensive jewelry. And that's why people have been saying that he's a champagne socialist. Now, the way Hasan responds to that criticism is by saying, look, listen, socialism is not about being poor or is not about giving all your money away. Socialism is all about just the relationship between labor and capital. And in a socialist country or system, there might be people that are richer than other people. And those rich people are probably going to be able to afford those luxury purchases. And so it's not inherently contrary to socialism to buy those things. And while this is a decent argument, it's hard to know if it's genuine because of all the glamorification of luxury purchases that Hasan does. And that's why in a debate against Trainwreck basically said, listen, you need to put your money where your mouth is, and you need to start on a small scale and do socialism in your own community so that you can change other people's mind and show that it's actually doable, right? And this is what Hasan had to say about this.
There are instances of like socialization, not socialism, working in other countries, and yet that has still not changed people's minds in the United States of America. So I don't know why you think that like something completely and entirely removed from socialism itself, which would be me, like, I guess, doing socialism in my own community. I don't know how you would do that, but I would love to hear your perspective.
Well, today I'm going to be sharing my own perspective. In this video, I'll be advocating for Hasan to do socialism in his own community. Now, what exactly does that mean, doing socialism in your own community? Well, I'll describe to you an example of a successful person that actually was able to do socialism in his own community. And that example is Mondragon. So Mondragon is often cited by American economist Richard Wolff for being a successful cooperative corporation and showing that it can actually be done and be worth like billions of dollars. And so I'll describe to you how it began and how the founder was able to be so successful. So all the information that I'll be talking about comes from the book Making Mondragon. So if you want to read it, the link will be in the description down below. It all started with the priest, Jose Maria Arizmendiarrieta. So he was a priest, but priesthood wasn't really his calling. He was more interested in sociology, but more than that, he was interested in solving the problems oppressing the townspeople of Mondragon. Now, just to clarify, Mondragon is both the name of the municipality in the Basque Country, but it's also the name of the corporation. So to not be confused, I'll be referring to Mondragon as the municipality and Mondragon Corporation as the corporation, the cooperative. So Jose Maria started with nothing, just being a priest. And then he noticed, wait, there's not a lot of educational opportunities in Mondragon. So I'll create a school called the Escuela Politécnica Profesional in 1943 to give more education to teenagers. Now, when the first group of teenagers graduated from his school, some of them wanted to pursue higher education. They wanted to pursue university education. And so thinking, because there wasn't, a lot of universities, or there was no universities around, Jose Maria said, okay, I'll contact a university in Spain to give you a program in absentia, meaning a program given in the school, but accredited by the university so that you can actually study in Mondragon. And that's what he actually did. And he was able to do that program. And with that program, 11 people graduated with a university diploma. Now, of those 11 people, 4 of them, along with Jose Maria, created the first co-op. It wasn't the first co-op in Mondragon, but it was the first co-op of the Mondragon Corporation, right? So this co-op manufactured home appliances, and it was created in 1956. Then in 1958, they thought we need a social security program. So that's what they created. In 1958, they created the Lagun Oro that provided social security for the members of Ulgor. At the beginning, was part of the co-op, and then once it became big enough and it provided enough for enough members, it became its own co-op in 1967. Then after that, 4 other co-ops were created, and those co-ops all sold part of their outputs to Ulgor. And while this was all going on, Jose Maria behind the scene was trying to create a bank, a cooperative bank, because he thought that was going to be really important, and he ended up being really right. And so he made some deals, and he was able in 1959 to create the Caja Laboral, which provided its members with these savings accounts with an interest rate higher than other banks. And so that was really successful, and eventually became an investment bank to create other co-ops. After that, Jose Maria noticed that there was some people that really wanted to, go to the Escuela Politécnica Profesional, but they didn't have enough money to pay the tuition. So he thought, okay, I'll create a co-op called Alicop, and in that co-op, they'll have 8-hour shifts, and out of 4 of those 8 hours will be spent working, manufacturing stuff, and the other 4 hours will be spent studying and taking classes. And that's how some people were able to afford the tuition by working at Alicop. After that, there was a farmers co-op that was created, and then Jose Maria noticed another problem, because at that time, married men were being prioritized over married women for employment because there wasn't a lot of jobs. And so the thinking was, well, married men, they need to provide for their families, and married women already have a married man, already have like a husband that can provide for them. So we'll prioritize the men over the women so that they can provide for their families. But married women in 1965 still wanted to work. And so to solve that problem, Jose Maria and others created the Ozo Lagoon, which was a co-op that was run by women that provided meals for other co-ops and that ran a restaurant. So that was how he solved that problem. Then, with all this growth in Mondragon, there was a need for more homes. And so some co-ops were created to build more homes, and that's what they did. They built more homes. And finally, the last iteration I'll talk about was done in 1977 because there was a problem where it was really easy for co-ops to compete at the beginning, but then as time went on, it was really difficult to gather enough money for research and development to be able to compete with other private firms. The way to solve that was to create another co-op called Ikerlen, which provided research and development services to all the other co-ops. Now, if we look at this, from 1943 to 1977, Jose Maria and others working with him were able to start from a very humble beginning of just one school and expand it to, 10, 12, more than that. A lot of co-ops, let's say. Now, what exactly am I suggesting by bringing up this example? Well, Hasan buys, owns, and just has, in general, a lot of stuff. For example, flags, posters, glasses, jewelry, rugs, frames. Here he has nicotine pouches, I think, and then whatever this beverage is. He also has like equipment, training equipment, and I'm guessing every day, every week, every month, he has to buy like clothing, household goods like dish soap, paper towels, sponges, wipes, plastic wrap, aluminum foil, or toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, face wash, hand wash, shampoo, cotton buds, hair comb, blah, blah, blah. What I'm suggesting, the one thing that Hasan could do that could prove that socialism works is to make a list of every single commodities that he has to buy every day, every week, every month, at all times. And then say to his audience, hey, listen, this is everything that I buy. If you create a co-op that manufactures any of these items, I will not only buy it, but I will also promote it for free to all my audience. Now, with an audience of 30,000, an average audience of 30,000, if we assume the conversion rate is 5%, at least 1,500 people will buy the products. So these new co-ops will have a huge jumpstart because they will already have 1,500 people, 1,500 customers at the very beginning. And so because the marketing is really expensive, well, those companies, those co-ops won't have to spend as much on marketing because the average percentage of revenue that is spent on marketing for any companies is like 5 to 20% depending on the industry. So remove that expense and they'll have much more chance of success. And Hasan doesn't have to do it alone. He can partner with other socialist streamers, other socialist YouTube channels like Second Thought, like Wisecrack, and bunch up all their viewership and promote it to millions of people. And if we assume like a conversion rate of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, it could be like 10,000 customers at the very beginning of each creation of a co-op. Here's a concrete example. Hasan sells merch. And in this clip, he explains how he sells merch.
I told you that I utilize, when I am actually producing commodities, utilize the same values that I uphold, okay? Whether it be unionized domestic employees that I am whenever I'm working on merchandise.
So to make merch, he talks with companies that are unionized in American, right? Why not instead say to his audience, hey, if you want to make a co-op that makes merch at a reasonable price, a competitive price, let's say, I will not only buy it, but promote it and ask all the other creators that I know to make their merch through you. And so wouldn't that be much better than working with, although a unionized company is better than a non-unionized company, but wouldn't that be better over working with a private company, right? Having a co-op that is able to produce your merch, that would be better. Obviously, I understand that socialism isn't just co-ops, but I think it's a really big part of it. Now, there are many definitions of socialism. Some people say socialism is this, some say socialism is that. But one of them, and I think the main one, is that the workers own the means of production. So just to make sure that I wasn't misinterpreting Hasan's beliefs, I made sure to look up if he actually believed that co-ops were good. Here's what he has to say.
There are many different ways of democratizing a workplace or democratizing an economic organization of society. One of those, is a cooperative corporation, That is precisely why my producer, who is producing the labor, who's creating part of the podcast, who sets up the Patreon and whatnot, and sets up the cameras, for example, that person is getting 1/3 of the overall revenue. That is inherently a socialist formation.
That is inherently a socialist formation. So even though, at the very least, even if we disagree on what is socialism or the definition, I think Hasan would agree that more co-ops would be better. And what I'm suggesting would inevitably lead to more co-ops. Now, sometimes Hasan says, I'm streaming 8 hours a day. I don't have much time to do all this organizing. It takes a lot of time. And, I have to do all this breaking news stuff, blah, blah, blah. But if we look at the other example that I described, the Mondragon example, you don't have to be part of the co-ops. Jose Maria never took a management role in all the co-ops that he helped create. Most of what he did was just reading about socialism, sociology, and everything around it. He educated others, and then he solved problems. That's what he did. So if Hasan doesn't want to touch it, doesn't want to do anything other than streaming, well, all he has to do is, instead of giving away, $50,000 to charity, he could take someone that he trusts, that knows a lot about socialism, that knows a lot about cooperatives and their structures and how to solve the problems, the initial problems of co-ops, and then give that 50,000 to create a co-op that would manage the entire endeavor, the Hasan program co-op. And the only thing he has to do is just promote the products that the co-ops create. That's the only thing he has to do, and show it to his audience and say, buy it, here's a link, and that's it. And maybe coordinate with other creators to make sure that they also promote the same products. So you can start at a very small scale. Then if it has some success, a lot of success, any amount of success, then not only are you taking away revenue from private companies, but you're also creating a working models for other communities to just copy. Yourself, you can even start by copying the model of Mondragon and then adapt it to the United States. And then once it's adapted, then other people can take your model and create it in their own communities. And maybe I'm too optimistic. Maybe he will say to his audience, he will ask, if you want to create a co-op, go ahead, and nobody will do so. Maybe. But I doubt. And even if it happens, I don't think you lose anything trying. If it fails, then okay, it doesn't really change anything. But if it succeeds, then you're able to take people that have miserable jobs and put them in jobs where they're less alienated. So it's a huge win, huge upsides, not a lot of downsides. So let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.